there was one in particular. So in my area, Tandil, that was where we baptized the couple. We didn't have a ton of investigators, and so we were just tracting one day, and it was a really hot day. And we had been walking across this courtyard, and we were only like a block or two away from the church, and you can't drink the water there. And so our water bottles were empty, and so we were gonna go try to fill up the water because they had a big water thing in the church. But my companion, as we were walking, we saw this couple sitting on the wall, and she just like felt like she needed to go ask them for some water instead. And I was like, okay. I was always nervous asking people for water because I never knew if it was gonna come from purified or just the tap. And so I was always a little nervous about it, but we tried to do it as much as we could just to have a way to talk to people, you know? And so she felt like she needed to go ask them. I was like, all right, let's do it, let's go ask. So we asked this couple for some water, and they were so, happy to help us, and they came back with some juice for us. And so the secret is when you ask people for water, you have to drink it really slow because then they have to sit out there and talk with you, and so it gave you a way better chance to talk to them about stuff, right? So we were just like slowly drinking our juice, and we got to know this couple, and they invited us to come back and teach them, and we were so excited. And the whole experience of teaching them was just so amazing. We went back for the first official lesson where we could sit down and talk to them, and the husband and wife were just sitting there. And then at the end of the lesson, the wife told us that she had lived in a different city before, had taken all the lessons. She was about to get baptized, but then her roommate, who was a member, was how she actually got to know the church. She moved, and so she just never saw the missionaries again, really. I don't know how they lost contact with her, but she just lost contact with the church. And so she had always wondered what would have happened if she would have gotten baptized and everything. And she still had her Book of Mormon, and she read it occasionally. Was such an amazing person, even not being a member of the church. And then when we were teaching her, she was like, ever since I moved to this city, because she moved to the city to marry her husband, so they were married, and we were like, you're actually married with a marriage certificate and everything. And they were, and we're like, that's a miracle in and of itself because they were already married. And she was just so excited that we went up to her and asked her for some water, because she was like, I pass by that church every day, and she's like, I always want to go inside and meet with the missionaries. And she's like, but I've always been too scared, and I just didn't, have the confidence to walk in by myself and go meet with some people. And so she's like, I've been wanting to do it for months, but I never could. And then she's like, and then you knocked on our door and, talked to us and asked us for some water. And she's like, I knew that was a sign that I needed to do it. And so that was just a miracle for us, that she'd been craving the church again. She wanted to go take the lessons again. And then we were able to find her, and my companion felt like we needed to ask that person. And so that was a miracle in and of itself. And so the entire time we were teaching, and they were so excited, and she kept all of her commitments. She was really excited to be baptized. Her husband was a little bit harder. He was a little bit more weary about the church and wasn't as excited to get baptized, but he kept his commitments and did everything like that. And the lesson we had with him when he finally told us that he had prayed and gotten a testimony, that was probably the most spiritual experience I've ever had, just because he finally did it. He knelt down and prayed, and he felt the Spirit, and he wanted to be baptized. From then on, he was all for it, So that entire experience was super spiritual. But right before their baptism, we were teaching them one of the last lessons, and we were finalizing all of the baptism, details and everything, who they wanted to be baptized by, and all the prayers and everything. And he was like, so I need to tell you guys something that I've never told you before. And we're like, oh no, is this going to prevent him from being baptized? And we got a little bit nervous. But he was like, a couple weeks before you guys knocked on our door, I had a dream. And we were in heaven or something. And he was like, I was walking and I was just lost. And then I saw you two, and you guys were just able to help me find my way. And he was explaining this dream, and then he was like, and after we had been talking and you helped me, I saw a person, descending from heaven, and he described the exact portrait of Jesus Christ coming down with his hands out, over the desert, and he described that exact thing, and we showed him a picture. He's like, that's what it was in his dream. And he was like, I had a dream about you girls and about Jesus Christ. And so that was before we'd even met him. And so then afterwards, when he told us that, the Spirit was so strong. I don't even know how the Spirit could have been that strong in a room before, but he was just like, I know that this is the truth, because not only, do I have a testimony of it, but I dreamt about you before I even met you. And like, I knew that you two were going to be my angels. And they constantly called us their angels. And they were just so grateful for us. And they were so grateful for the truths that we were able to bring to them and how much happiness we could give to them. And it was like my miracle story of the mission, of my baptisms, because they were so prepared, and all they were waiting for was the missionaries to come knock on their door, And so that's when I really had a testimony of the elect and how some people are just prepared to learn about the gospel and some people just aren't ready yet. And this couple had been prepared, from all of their previous experiences with the church. And, and another thing he had told us was when he was a little boy, he had been riding the bus, and his family had been kind of struggling a little bit when he was younger. And so he saw when he was on the bus, his mom walked in front of the church, like she had already been planning to go there, and a member of the church had given her a huge grocery bag of food. And he was like, I had no idea that she had even had contact with the church or anything. And he's like, I don't know how they figured out we needed food, but he always remembered the kindness that the members showed his family and how they were always willing to help him and, give him the food if they needed it. And so because of that experience when he was a little boy, he was so open to receive our message, as an adult. And so it just was so amazing to see how all of their experiences led up to them finding the church and being baptized. And it was the most amazing baptism I had ever been a part of, because the members were so involved in their conversion, and we had almost every single lesson we had a member present. And so they really connected with this one family. And so that was, the dad was the person who was able to baptize them, and they just were so grateful for all the members, and they just found so many friends in the members. And actually during their baptism, the husband was kind of tall, and the guy that was baptizing him didn't scoot forward enough. And so when he baptized him, he completely hit his head on the wall of the baptismal font, really hard. And so the guy kind of fell into the water. And so it wasn't a valid baptism. We had to baptize him again, but we were like, are you okay? We didn't know if he had a concussion or anything. And as soon as we baptized him again and it was okay, he walked out and he was rubbing his head. And he's like, wow, I didn't think the Spirit was gonna hit me that hard. And it was just so funny that even though he just got knocked out by being baptized, he was still so positive about it and so excited about his baptism. And after they were baptized, before the end of the service, they bore their testimonies, and it was just such a spiritual meeting, and everybody in the audience was crying. Even their friend who they invited to come watch their baptism, he was even crying, and it was just such an incredible experience, and the Spirit was so strong through the entire process, and we were just on cloud 9 every day after we met with them. It was just so amazing. I think that was probably one of the most spiritual things I felt on my mission.